Welcome back. I'm so glad you're here. I am Coach Julia, and today I am going to be giving you some little tips on how to use something called a hand stone. So a hand stone, I'll show you what it looks like, is a tool that you can use to touch up the sharpening of your skates between actual sharpenings. You can use it in a number of different ways. You can knock little burrs and nicks off your edges. So maybe you weren't careful about wearing your skate guards while you were walking around in the lobby and you stepped on something, you got a little nick in there. We can use a hand stone to knock those nicks off. If you just want a little bit more sharpening and you're not needing a whole sharpening, maybe you're getting ready for competition and you don't want to have a freshly sharpened blade, which can be a little difficult to skate on, you can use a hand stone to just give it a little bit of an extra sharpness in the edge. Or if you have just gotten your skates sharpened and they're so sticky and you can't stop on them and it's too much for you, you can use this to dull down your sharpening a little bit as well. So a hand stone is a great little tool to keep in your skate bag. It does take some practice, so I recommend you don't do this right before a test or a competition the first time, or even better, if you have a pair of old skates you're not using anymore, you can use the old pair to practice how to use a hand stone. Hand stones come in a number of different grits and shapes, and I will show you how to use the two different main shapes. I am going to start with this one. It is a medium grit. It is like a brick, so it's perfectly rectangular on the sides. There's no curves. So this style of hand stone, as I said, is really good for taking off the abrasions and nicks on the side of your skate. This is a very old pair of skates. I don't actually use it anymore, but there are nicks along the side that we're going to get rid of today. Now, something you need to understand about sharpening and using hand stones is this entire blade is not meant for sharpening, just the very bottom part. There's a section on here, it's a little dark on, you can see how there's a dark section here on the bottom of this blade. This is tempered steel. This is not tempered. This has this beautiful chrome finish. This section is tempered, and that tempered steel at the bottom is the part that we're going to sharpen. Once you get past that, you can see this is a very old pair. There's actually no tempered steel at the back. I wore the heel right out of this, and due to poor sharpening at various different pro shops, so there's no tempered at the front, which is part of why I don't use these blades anymore. But we can see there's still a tempered section. Let's see. You can see there's still a tempered section here in the middle, so that's what we're going to work with. You do not want this stone hitting this beautiful shiny part. They're not so beautiful anymore. I wore these in a lot of ice shows and they got pretty damaged back in the day. But we're going to try to just use this stone on the tempered steel. If it gets onto the chrome, it will get all nicked up looking and is not going to be as pretty, and that finish on here helps the blade not rust. So we really don't want to damage the shiny part of our blade. We're just getting at that dull part of the blade down at the bottom. So I'm just going to take this stone flat in my hand, so I got a good grip on it there, and I'm going to put it against the side where these burrs are. Try not to go into that chrome, and just I'm going to tip it slightly in, so I'm not going to have it completely flat. It's slightly tipped, so you can see my hand is at an angle. That way this bottom line of the stone isn't rubbing on that chrome. So I'm just going to tip it and slide it across that edge. Oh, so nice. I wish I had a better camera for you guys, but this edge is actually perfectly smooth. There's no nicks left, and this side there are still little burrs all the way across. So I'm just going to flip that over. Again, hold that stone really carefully in your hand. I'm going to tip it so that it's not going to go sideways here. I'm just angling it a little bit so I don't mess up that chrome, and I'm going to slide it across the edge. So there we go, no nicks on that edge, just a simple couple slides across, and you can get all of those little nicks and burrs out of your edge. So that's the primary thing I like to do with this flat hand stone. So the other thing we can do with this flat stone is actually knock a little bit of the sharpness off of this blade. If you want to be really careful, very, very careful with this, because we don't want to have flat spots. So what I'm going to do is just take both my hands, so it's evenly supported with both hands, and run it flat across my blade. I don't want it tipping one way or the other, or I'm going to end up with one blade lower, one side of the blade lower, and that makes it difficult to even do a straight 1-foot glide. Your foot will pull in the direction of the lower edge. So when you do this, be very careful that you're using your hands with equal pressure. So when we slide down the blade, we're not getting any dents that way. We don't want to like scoop in and get little divots in our blade. We don't want to, like I said, do one side deeper than the other. So just very, very carefully, very light pressure, very, very light pressure, slide that stone across. So that is the two different things you can do with a flat handstone. Again, this is a medium grit flat handstone. I am going to show you the other kind of handstone. That is a fine grit, and it's actually tapered. So it still has flat sides, but the ends are curved. See, you can see a big curve on that side and a shallow curve on the other side. Now, while the medium grit is used for taking down sharpness, knocking off burrs, this is for bringing up the sharpness. So this fine grit will help you increase the sharpness of your skate. So what I'm going to do is just hold this nice and secure in my hand, and I'm going to run it down the center of my blade. And since there is a curve in the center and there's a curve here, that is going to increase that curve and give you extra sharpening. So we want to be very careful to mimic the shape of our blade. So a blade should have a curve in the rocker and be fairly flat out back. So you can allow your hand to curve in the front, but you want it to go sort of straight off in the back. You don't want it to curve back. That's what we would do if we were doing a hockey skate. We would let our hand curve back and forth. But for this one, we're going to curve it in the front and just pull it straight off in the back. Curve the front, pull it straight off. Now I'm using these fingers and running them along the side of the blade as I do this. This is actually helping give me a little bit more stability, so I'm not relying on my hands to stay straight up as much. So while I do this, my fingers just run right across the back of the blade. So we have that little stability here. The handstone goes straight down in that groove, and we slide it across. Now we don't want it to tip one way or the other way. As I mentioned when we are flattening the blade, if you tip, then you're going to end up with one side that's a lower edge than the other. And when you have a lower edge, your skate is going to pull in that direction. So we want to make sure that when we do this handstone, it is straight up and down, very straight, and not leaning to one side or the other. That's where having these two fingers on the back can help give you some of that stability. So we just set it right in there, curve it at the front, nice and flat off the back. Give it a couple good passes. So that is how you use the fine grit tapered handstone. It's fairly simple, but again, I would really recommend that you practice with both of these kinds of stones on maybe an old pair of skates before you go out and use them on your nice skates. Or if you know you're about to get a sharpening, you can try it a couple of times and then take your skates in for a sharpening just in case you messed anything up. Now again, I am going to have a link for both of these stones in the description down below if you want to pick up a pair and put them in your skate bag. All right, skaters, I hope you enjoyed this one, learned some new techniques for keeping your skates in perfect sharpness. If you enjoyed this, then please do give us that thumbs up. And as always, I look forward to reading all your comments in this section down below. If you haven't done so yet, then hit that subscribe button and the little notification bell so you can see all my videos when they come out. Happy skating, and I'll see you next time.